welcome back to Sunrise Daily. And then, I was citing the fact that, looking through all of this, we seem to be held hostage by the law here. Because if, after this raid, they get to court, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will successfully prove their case beyond reasonable doubt in the court. And if that doesn't happen and the cases are dismissed, you may have members of the public who will say, oh yeah, it's because they're judges, it's a clique. And so that's on the one hand. And then on the second hand, when we talk about reforms in the judiciary, does this address that challenge?
Well, in law, there is equity, right? There's always a way to balance our behaviors, in civil society. And I want us to go back. When the DSS broke into the APC office, just before the elections, and carted away stuff. And when the DSS conducted themselves in Osun State, and they wore masks, right? A number of people were appalled, and they shouted, and they said it was not right for the DSS to do that. Now, the people who complained yesterday are comfortable with the behavior of the DSS today, and vice versa, which means we have a moral dilemma within ourselves in Nigeria in terms of having a common standard, a shared understanding of what is good and what is bad. Because our own laws, is either we don't respect them, or we don't share those laws, or we don't truly believe in those laws. Yes, you need a judicial sector reform, a deep one. I think the privileges of the senior lawyers have been totally abused. I think, a number of senior lawyers who belong to, I'm not a junior lawyer myself, I'm not an SAN, but I'm close to 30 years as a lawyer. I think it counts for something. I think they've thoroughly abused their privileges, and that is part of what we see here. And they've used those privileges to create injustice in the system. So, of course, a judicial reform is required, but a security sector reform is even more important and more germane. That operation should have been done jointly by the EFCC and the DSS. It shouldn't have been a single agency operation.
Was it single, or was it in conjunction with the police?
Well, if it was in conjunction with the police, then the police commissioner in Rivers State wouldn't have come in as a peacemaker.
Which is what he said.
Which is exactly what happened.
And we've got no comment whatsoever from the IGP.
And if it was by the police, the commissioner, they could easily have asked the commissioner of police to escort them, and they will go to the judge's house, be it 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., you go to the judge's house, surround the judge's house by all means, give him a call, DSS is here, we need to search your house now.
From what you've seen so far, do you think all these agencies believe that they are answerable to the people?
No, they are answering alone to their immediate bosses, and that is what makes it complicated and dysfunctional. They should be accountable to a security system and to a network command for law and enforcement. They should be, and that is provided for by some constitution, at least whatever we have of the constitution now. There must be an institutional framework that makes sure that what the police does complements what the DSS does, complements what the EFCC does, complements what the traffic person does. You get my point? But each one of them conducting itself as it's a lord unto himself, and considering the other one inferior. Because quite frankly, part of why they are not efficient is that DSS feels that it is superior to EFCC, EFCC feels it is superior to the police, police feels it is superior to the road traffic. And at the end of the day, everybody is fighting against superiority and tough. When you fight against superiority and tough, there is a tendency for you to want to overstretch your mandate because of competition that is not helpful to the larger society.
Let's bring Mark in on this one, folks.
Mark, how are you? It's been a long time. How are you doing?
Well, thank you, Mr. Fagbenro.
Yeah.
But let me quickly ask this one because I'm a little confused as to where exactly you stand. You first of all said that you support the security agencies intervening or searching or arresting at any time of the day, then you say that the rights of the judges were abused. Where precisely do you stand on this? Are you saying that, you know, they shouldn't have broken down the door if the doors were refused to be opened at that time of the day? Or what precisely constitutes an illegality? I haven't quite gotten that sense just yet.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is that everything borders on evidence. I'm saying that there's a procedure. In the first place, the DSS could go and effect an arrest at any time. But you go and effect an arrest at certain times principally to prevent an impending or a crime going on as of the moment. The question is that, did they knock on the doors that they were coming in? Did they knock? And did they ask him that we want to come in? And did they refuse? Did the judges refuse to open the door? Or did they resist arrest? Were they armed and dangerous? Because you want to find out, you want to be careful about what precedents you're setting. Are we saying that a DSS or any security agency for that matter can proceed to the house of a suspect and break down the door regardless? Because for example, if I have women impugner in my house, the law says that you should allow the women impugner to extricate themselves from the house. Now that is a consideration because it's given in the sense that yes, you could have instructions, but you must carry those instructions out with a lot of initiative and regard to the circumstances. And I'm saying that it is a combination of matters that will determine whether at the end of the day they did it rightly or wrongly, depending on the evidence. Now, what a lot of people believe, and which appears to be the case, is that there was no reason to break down the doors. That is it. There was no reason to break down the doors. There was no reason for DSS men to be hooded. Now, when you are hooded as a policeman or a law enforcement officer, right, then are you properly dressed? Are you legally dressed? Because your identity as a security officer effecting a civil or criminal arrest should be plain and open to everybody. That is why policemen wear tags. If I committed a crime, you tell me what I did, show me who you are arresting me. For crying out loud, we have known before, it has happened before, and there is evidence that nefarious, corrupt police officers or whatever, security officers, plant evidence. Is that true or is it false? Don't we know that that happens, even if it is only 2%? So people, they say justice must not only to be, justice started for the justices when those policemen went to their house. And justice must not only be done, it must manifestly be seen to be done. The question is that DSS also has cases before some of those judges.
So that speaks to the principle of natural justice.
Of course it does.
All right, Mr. Sina Fagbenro-Byron is a lawyer and also a former Southwest coordinator of DFID. We appreciate you coming on this morning.
Retired now.
That's a long one, right? Yeah. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Mother Gold. Mother Gold Limited. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, then it's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a moment and focus on another matter in just a moment. Don't go away.